Hey everyone, hope you've all been enjoying the trails this summer. I gotta be honest, leading group hikes is a blast, but capturing all the amazing memories can be a challenge. That's where our new podcast sponsor, the Cameo Journal, comes in. This thing's built for travelers and hikers by fellow adventurers. It's a pocket-sized rugged journal designed for you to collect up to 100 entries from all your trailmates, your life guests, and anyone else you meet along the way. Basically, it can be a guest book for your travels and an awesome keepsake. Logan over at the Cameo Journal is a backpacker himself and put all his love for travel into the design. So if you're looking to level up your hiking adventures, head over to thecameojournal.com to grab one not just for yourself, but for your crew too. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. Throughout these summer months, we've had the privilege of conversing with some remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In today's episode, we're making our way back to Colorado to talk to an amazing hiker and overlander. Her name is Erica, and you can follow her on Instagram at adventureeating_, with only one E in the middle. Erica shares with us some of her favorite hikes and overland trails in and around Colorado, including camping at the Cosmic Ashtray and scoring her permit to visit the Wave on her birthday. She also shares with us a little bit about her adventure rig and her passion for cooking delicious meals while she's overlanding. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Erica. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm really excited to have this guest on today's episode. She's from Colorado. She's going to be talking about all her amazing, incredible experiences, not just in Colorado State, but abroad. Erica, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. For our listeners that haven't had a chance to follow you online, can you share a little bit about yourself? And then also, how long have you been hiking for and how did you get started?
Hey, so I'm Erica of Adventure Eating. I'm originally from New York, Long Island to be specific. I moved out to Colorado around 10 years ago, originally for school, and just didn't really ever want to go home. I'd say that's where my relationship with hiking and the outdoors really kind of started, as far as backcountry travel, overlanding, everything of that sort. I did not grow up with any of that. I grew up actually out on the beach fishing on fishing boats as a kid. So I think that's where my love for off-road vehicles. I know that that's like a huge bridge there, but I used to kind of live on boats as a kid, so I feel like it kind of was like the precursor for camping. So originally I went to school out in Fort Collins for metallurgy with a focus in jewelry design, and then I decided to continue my education. I put continue education in air quotes just because it's totally off base from metal design or jewelry design and metallurgy. But I went to culinary school in Boulder for baking and pastry. So that's kind of where a lot of my cooking background came from, or was solidified. I kind of had baked my entire life, but just wanted to make it official.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, because some of the meals that you've shared on Instagram, especially there was a pie that was in like a cast iron.
Oh, yeah, that was from actually up in your neck of the woods. I did that on the Olympic Peninsula. That's where we were, out in the Pacific Northwest. We were kind of out on the beach for an overlanding trip, and I had pre-made a bunch of components for different pastries, and I wanted to kind of challenge myself to bake over the fire. So that was kind of my first endeavor in more solidified campfire cooking rather than just using like a camp stove.
Oh, it looked delicious.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to play around with that a little bit more, honestly. Just even the other night, we went out into the mountains for a few hours to set up a fire and do kind of like an Outdoor Boys style dinner, if you're familiar with their channel. Yeah, so we did his bread and honey butter and guanciale and all that stuff.
Is that something that you'll be posting on Instagram?
So I mainly post all of my cooking in my stories. I'm still kind of trying to find my style and my voice when it comes to Instagram and how I post. I've been playing around a lot more with recording my actual cooking to try and figure out how to properly convey it to people. Just because all the videos that I end up taking are very simple. And while that's fine, I'd like to elevate it a little bit more to really kind of show people how to do it and then also capture it in a more artistic way.
I like it. I wanted to ask you, being from the East Coast originally and then moving to Colorado, did you start your hiking journey on the East Coast or did it really kind of start off in Colorado?
It really didn't start until I moved out to Colorado. Before the podcast, I was kind of looking back on it. And the first time I ever went into an REI and the first camping gear, hiking related gear I ever purchased was my Marmot 30-degree sleeping bag and a pair of hiking boots. And it was at the REI in downtown Manhattan, knowing that I was about to move out to Colorado and that I would need at least one or two things. And I still have my Marmot. I actually slept in it last night. I love that thing. The hiking boots have since been trashed. It's kind of funny to look at the evolution of my hiking adventure journey since I moved out here, just because some of the things I'm doing today, I laugh at myself from where I started, just because I would be like crying. I remember doing trails even out in Fort Collins that were nothing, and I was just freaking out at like the angles of things and like not very trusting of my feet and my tread and how to move, and now it's like second nature.
I was kind of the same way. I've always been a day hiker, and because of the podcast, it got me into backpacking. I didn't think I would ever get into backpacking, but just hearing people's experiences got me thinking like, okay, I got to try it. Ever since then, last year was the first year I went backpacking and I'm hooked.
This is actually the first year that I did an overnight backpacking. So I had always done day hikes and or like overlanding I can do for, weeks at a time, but actually being in the backcountry, my first night out was actually sleeping at Cosmic Ashtray last month with a friend. And then the second time was later on that week, I solo sent it out to Reflection Canyon, which is like 8 miles out, 8 miles back, completely exposed through the desert, no trail for the last like mile. And I didn't have a tent. I didn't have anything really. I had a friend who gave me their sleeping pad and my sleeping bag, a few other things, and I just slept out on the slick rock. It was amazing.
Oh my goodness, what two incredible places to do your first overnight backpacking trips out there, because Cosmic Ashtray just got on my radar last year, and I got to ask you because I typically will fly into either Phoenix or Las Vegas and then rent a car. Do you need a special like upgraded high clearance 4x4 vehicle to make it to the trailhead, or?
So it really depends on how far in you're trying to drive or how long you're trying to hike. You can drive to pretty much within like, I think 3/4 miles from the actual ashtray, which obviously is barely even a hike in at that rate. But to get there, you need to go through a pretty gnarly sand pit. It was super fun to go through, but I can definitely see people getting stuck back there quite often, especially if it's muddy or there's any inclement weather, or even if you're not comfortable keeping your speed through something like that. Otherwise, there is another trailhead farther down. I think it makes it like 3 miles, which is still not that bad. Or you can hike in from, I believe it's the west entrance. I might be getting my directions backwards on that one. But from the opposite direction of the parking areas, you can hike in. And I know that it's supposed to be a really cool hike. You go through at least one or two slot canyons to get there. But I think it makes it like 8 to 10 miles.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to look up that section because I've heard of the one that you park further down from the road to avoid the sand.
Yeah, so the trailheads or the parking areas are on Harris Wash. And then I forget what the other entrance is, but it's kind of cool because it's a pick your own adventure type of deal.
Oh, I'm gonna have to, yeah, definitely add it to the bucket list. I'm hoping sometime this fall or winter I can make it back down and cross it off the list. Now, Erica, you're in a unique landscape there in Colorado because I think, like most people, when they think of Colorado, they think of the Rocky Mountains, but there's so much more to Colorado. There's places where it's just completely flat. There's desert landscapes. How would you describe the hiking scene and overlanding scene in and around your neck of the woods?
So that's such a hard one to actually pin down just because there is such a wide array of quote scenes of people. And that applies for both overlanding and hiking, obviously. You know, there are the day hikers, the backpackers, the trail runners, everything you can think of. Realistically, I'm kind of just a day hike, morning hike with my girlfriends when I'm at home in my normal schedule and routine. Overlanding is a whole other story. The car scene is kind of an interesting one to navigate. Again, I would say that I kind of like tend to stick to myself a little bit. Not necessarily in an antisocial way, just a kind of march to the beat of my own drum type of way, I'd say.
You're blazing your own trail.
Yeah. And like a lot of the times I enjoy the peace of overlanding and being able to kind of go conquer things on my own and know that I have the ability and independence to do so. I'd say, if anything, like I'm kind of involved with people from here and there and, you know, whichever scene. But yeah, we've kind of got it all in Colorado. I feel like Colorado is like a melting pot of some sort for outdoor activities. We have so many people from so many states and so many backgrounds. And,
You know, going back to some of your day hikes, is there any favorite trails or regions there in Colorado that you like to explore?
so generally, we're out in like the area of Golden. We do a lot of Flatirons hikes. We are always on South Boulder Peak. But yeah, generally pretty close to the house. I am becoming more interested in doing more 14ers, but that's a whole other scene. There are definitely people out there that are all about 14ers. Some of them are so pretty, some of them not as interested in. I seem to gravitate a lot more towards the desert, whether that be Utah or the high plains, New Mexico, southern Colorado.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't really realize how different the mountains there in Colorado are. Because here in Washington State, I feel like there's not too many boulder fields or scree fields that you have to overcome to reach the summit of some of our mountains. But like to see what some of those 13ers and 14ers and people are wearing like helmets because of, you know, rocks could potentially be coming down the mountain. It just adds a whole nother level of not just hiking, but almost like mountaineering to a certain extent.
Yeah, which it's super cool. I'm interested in it. I guess for me, especially more recently, I've been more into canyoneering. Again, like plateau or Colorado Plateau, Utah areas, getting into like the canyons. It's so special and so unique. So that's kind of where I'm heading as far as like climbing rather than climbing mountains. I actually, again, we were at the Wave for my birthday. I ended up getting some climbing gear. So I got a new harness and a chalk bag and a few pieces of hardware. So yeah, I'm super excited to get more into it.
Yeah, canyoneering is definitely something, and we don't really have it here in the Pacific Northwest, but some of those places in Utah that the only way to get into some of those canyons is through canyoneering.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Now, Erica, we've been talking about your overlanding experience. Can you share a little bit about how you got into overlanding and off-roading? And then also, can you share a little bit about your adventure rig?
Yeah, of course. I didn't really grow up with like cars. I was always around some cool cars. It was never really shown much as far as like working on cars or taking them off road necessarily. You know, my dad always had like a big pickup truck. My first car was actually a pickup truck. Back east on boats, we were mainly just like hauling boats, moving stuff around. And I loved my pickup truck. That was like my favorite car ever when I had first gotten it. I quickly outgrew it because I loved that I could haul around stuff, haul around my friends, go out on the beach. It was not so good in snowy environments just because being a pickup truck, all your weight is on the two front wheels. So you tend to spin out a lot if you don't keep weight in the back. From there, I had a brief stint with a Subaru that was a total deviation from what I'm doing now. And then I ended up getting my first 4Runner. It was a 2016 SR5, and I became obsessed with it. I was doing things that a stock SR5 should not be doing. Never had an issue with it, always made it out, was able to get pretty much anywhere. So that was kind of my first taste for camping and overlanding in that manner. Started with just like a sleeping pad in the back of my car. Actually, I didn't even have a sleeping pad. I used to take the cushions from an old couch and shove them in the back of my stock SR5 to sleep in the back before I had like any real camping gear or equipment. So again, that's kind of another one to look back on and laugh, just like the evolution in just a 10-year period to now having like the rooftop tent and a refrigerator and power systems and, anything and everything you can ask for when you're on the road. I had that SR5, and then it was last year that I ended up upgrading. I, for years, had wanted to modify my 4Runner, but I ended up just waiting and upgrading the whole thing and then starting new with that. So right now it's a 2023 TRD Pro, which the lockers have come in handy so many times at this point. And that's also funny because I half the time forget that I even have them, having driven the SR5 for so long. I'm on Dobinson's IMS kit, so I've got a 3-inch lift. I've got C4 armor, so a front bumper, rear bumper, skid plates, rock sliders. I've got a refrigerator in the back. I've got a Yoshino 2000-watt battery and 2000-watt inverter in my car for power. I've got a bunch of stuff going on with it now.
And did I see, Erica, that its maiden voyage was out in my neck of the woods here in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, it actually was. So I picked up the truck last July, and within 4 days, I had packed it up and went to go meet some friends up at the Canadian border. The first night I camped in it was in Grand Tetons. Second night was Olympic. Met my friends at the border at I think like 3 or 4 in the morning. And we camped out in Olympic. Woke up in like Pacific Northwest Wonderland, as you are well aware. Then from there, we went out to the Olympic Peninsula, spent a few days there, drove down the coast to like Tillamook area. I am obsessed with Tillamook. Oregon and Washington have some of the best food ingredient producers like in the US. It's amazing. But yeah, we went down through Tillamook, back in to Portland, and proceeded back to Denver from there.
What a voyage to kick off with the new rig.
Yeah, that was fun.
And you kind of talked about some of the upgrades you've already done to it. What are some of your favorite upgrades? And then what would you consider your most under the radar upgrade that, most might gloss over, but has been a game changer for you personally?
So the game changer for me was definitely the lift. It's super nice to be able to know that you're going to make it over certain things. It definitely took some getting used to after driving something that was stock for so long. It still kind of amazes me what I can make it over now, what I have the clearance for. But that was definitely the biggest game changer so far. And then something that people might gloss over, realistically, like I am obsessed with my C4 rear bumper. It is their Overland series rear bumper. I'm pretty sure it's their only rear bumper that they make, at least with the tire swing out. It's amazing, especially since I kind of built my rig to have a dedicated cooking area in the back. So I have like my refrigerator pull out and then my tire swing pulls out, and they have a tabletop that pulls down from the back. So it gives me an area to cook. And then I forget what the weight rating is, but you can sit on that thing if you want. And honestly, I use it to open my tent at this point because I know I can step on it. So it's kind of like a more dedicated step for me to get up to the roof now.
Is that something that just came in stock, or did you have to modify it?
So yeah, I had to modify it. It is nice just because their rear bumper system doesn't require any cutting. So you're able to kind of just pull your back bumper off and completely replace it rather than having to like cut the OEM parts. Unlike the front, like my front bumper, I had to cut those high clearance sides for.
And that's to help with like not just your approach angle, but also I forgot what the back is called.
As far as like the front, it is for your approach angles and more clearance in the front. Those fifth gen Forerunners have a lot of plastic up near the front tires. Yeah, the back, it's all steel now, so it has high clearance, which is nice. But also, if I hit anything, it doesn't really matter because it's steel.
I feel like your rig was meant to be on the roads near Colorado and Utah in the Southwest. And I feel like Colorado, especially, we were kind of talking about it before we were recording, but it's known for its epic off-road trails that lead to some spectacular views. What are some of your favorite off-road destinations that you've been able to make it out to in the last couple of years?
Oh man, right off the bat, like I don't have one spot that even really comes to mind. I just in general, my favorite thing is going on Onyx, going on Overlander, Gaia, cross-referencing everything, finding new roads, trying to find like interesting looking terrain on different maps and then trying to figure out how to access it. Gosh, there's so many places. Like there are some passes up even in like for Colorado for Crested Butte, passes that have the most insane wildflowers. God, so many places come to mind. Even just this weekend, like I had no idea where I was going. I kind of left the house Saturday with no real plan other than I wanted to camp and I needed to be back Wednesday. And Saturday night, I found myself on the edge of the Rio Grande in Rio Grande del Norte out by Taos. And it was just the most epic overlook. I have so many experiences like that.
Yeah, it's hard to choose. No, I totally understand. You know, we kind of talked about it too, that some of these mountain passes or off-road trails can get a little sweaty palms for those that aren't used to it. Have you encountered any of those sweaty palm roads?
Yeah, so Argentine Pass we did last October, which is it's not like too crazy a path. It's just long. It is really cool at the top though. You get to summit the pass and there are definitely some tricky boulders to get around. So it's definitely technical driving, but not like any rock crawling. Other than that, I've done imaging. I'd love to do Black Bear. I know it was closed this past season. Hopefully it'll open this summer. There are so many cool ones. There's another one up by Uray, but I want to say Gold Strike, but that was something out in New Mexico I saw.
Yeah, I kind of knew of overlanding a little bit, but then it wasn't until I met somebody on the trail that told me that at least here in Washington State, there's a designated overland trail that takes you from the Columbia Gorge all the way up to the Canadian border. And it's all these different back roads. Avoid the freeways, the highways, and looking on the map, I always saw some of those intersections in the Forest Service roads, but had no idea that they were interconnected. It's amazing what you could do with a high clearance vehicle, and maybe not necessarily 4x4, but that definitely helps in certain spots. But it's definitely a growing movement here in the United States.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I have been on some trails that I laugh just because I will try and get in as far as I can without going into 4x4. A lot of them you can get through without it. Honestly, there might be one or two sections that you might need it, or you might need to engage a locker for a minute. And other than that, you're pretty good. But yeah, as far as like connecting those routes, that's become like a passion of mine, is honestly to just look at maps and try and figure out like the weirdest back routes I can connect. And that kind of is the beauty of having high clearance and 4x4, just because even if you get yourself into a tight spot, as long as you're comfortable with some more technical driving, you can realistically go anywhere. And if you find yourself in a pinch, you turn around, you back down, it's about knowing your limits and knowing your comfortability level. And then just because I told you I'd remember it in probably the next 5 minutes, but I was thinking of Engineer Pass and it goes to Cinnamon Pass. And those are both some really beautiful passes in Colorado as well. They're not too hard or technical to do realistically, but just another one of those big name passes that people like to cross off the list when they're out here.
And is that in like southwest Colorado or what portion of the state?
So that's again out by Ouray, Telluride, Silverton.
I think for me personally, that's one of the more beautiful areas of Colorado is that little triangle of Ouray, Telluride, Silverton. It's just absolutely amazing and so diverse in like the stuff that you can do, not just like hiking, but the
The Via Ferrata.
Ferrata, yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do the Telluride Via Ferrata. It looks so cool. Like, I'm sure I will cry like a baby, but I want to do it so bad.
And so,
And it's so funny because I've seen a few videos of people doing it at this point, and I've even seen two separate videos of the same person trying it. And one time they like killed it. It was great. And then I'm pretty sure it was on their second time they got freaked out, which was super funny.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I feel like it's another one of those things like overlanding or off-roading more so, where it's just like a mind game sometimes. You know, it looks a lot worse than it actually is. I will say the Via Ferrata definitely looks like there are some sketchy parts, but for the most part, they have those anchors there for you. You're not doing it alone. Realistically, I think the first little catwalk is what looks the scariest because that's the only section that you're not really clipped in.
So yeah, that would definitely give me sweaty palms if I'm not clipped in. I always thought, clipping in, if I fall, if I slip, I'm clipped in, I'll be good. But yeah, if there's sections where you're not, that's definitely gets your heart racing.
Oh yeah. But again, it's like if you were to do the same catwalk and you weren't 1,000+ feet in the air, you'd be fine.
Yeah. One segment that we like to do with our guest here, Erica, is doing a deep dive into the guest's Instagram and picking out a post or a location that captures our attention and asking the guest about it. And one place that you've been able to visit a few times, and it's on my bucket list as a destination to visit next time I'm in Canyonlands, but that's the Needles District. And you've had some really memorable experiences visiting and exploring the Needles District. Can you share a little bit about some of the more memorable ones?
Yeah, so the Needles is super, super special. And I love that even when Canyonlands is absolutely pumping, that you can go out to the Needles and just be alone. I've got some amazing memories and hikes in there. One of the coolest memories that comes to mind first was a day hike with a friend of mine who's a photographer out in Utah Kanab area. And he had done the hike before. It was my first time. And all of a sudden I started hearing water. So I decided to follow it because you're on slick rock. So sometimes going off the trail is not frowned upon so long as you're not on the crypto soil. And I ended up finding this amazing spring that was totally hidden. We ended up hanging out there for quite a while, but it was one of those situations where I don't know if you've ever seen it maybe on Instagram in Utah when there are kind of like these cathedral like areas or these overhangs of rock and the light is playing off of the water pools. You just see these amazing light ripples up on the walls. It was captivating. Like I could not leave. And it was so refreshing to be down there. It was almost like subterranean and it was just such a hot day. But I think about that hike all the time. I want to go find that spring again. That and then hiking in the maze is amazing as well. Same kind of deal. You can hike all day and maybe see 2-3 people on a busy day.
And did I see, Erica, that you also did a little bit of canyoneering in the Needles District?
So there's this one area when you're hiking to Druid's Arch that's kind of almost like being in a slot canyon. It's more of like just a walkway in the rock than a slot canyon, I would call it. But I've been there a few times and practiced stemming for slot canyons. I think the photos that you're referring to, though, those are out by like Goblin Valley, Utah, which is kind of the area where, gosh, I'm forgetting his name, but 127 Hours.
Oh, yeah. Aaron.
Yeah, that's out by where that all took place in the slot canyon system, out by like Wild Horse. But yeah, we had gone, I think that was this past last November, October, I was out there and we did some slot canyons in that area, just some super easy day hikes like Ding and Dang. But gosh, they are so much fun. It's this slot canyon loop that you take. So you take one of them up and then one back around, which is kind of interesting just because it's like this huge never-ending network of slot canyons.
Yeah, I think you even called it this, but it's like the adult version of The Floor is Lava.
Yep, that was the post. It was like the adult version of The Floor is Lava. It was so funny. I was actually taking my friend on their first slot canyon hike, and I was the one who ended up in the lava because at one point I got sweaty hands. It was super hot. I didn't have the right gear on, and I slipped into one of the pools by accident. Oh, and God, they stink.
Oh man. Yeah, that's one thing I always worry about doing some of those slot canyons where there's still some pools of water from the last little bit of runoff that's come through there. Some of that stagnant water that's been sitting there for some time has a pretty ripe smell to it.
Every time you fall into one, you're just like, I don't have any cuts or open wounds, right?
Now, we kind of touched base on it a little bit, Erica, but you had a really magical thing happen. I feel like this place is on a lot of people's bucket list, especially when it comes to the lotteries for permits. But you got to visit the Wave, and I think you said you got the permit on your birthday?
That is correct. I had been trying for 2 years to get those permits. The lottery opens every 3 months. You can reapply. And, it became like kind of a mindless game. Every 3 months, I'd open my .gov app. I'd apply for a bunch of different permits in different areas, see what I can land. I had some sort of premonition about this email because it was worded slightly different than the normal rejection emails you get from them. I opened it up and it said May 14th, which was my birthday, and it honestly could not have been, I couldn't have asked for anything better for my birthday this year. It was magical.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it lived up to the expectations, and I think you spent quite a bit of time out there, not just exploring the Wave itself, but its surrounding areas, right?
Yeah, I spent about 2 weeks out in that area on the border of Utah, Arizona. The first night I went out by Capitol Reef, which is, normal stomping grounds for me. Spent the night over by Goblin Valley. I had just gotten my drone, so I wanted to get some shots of these places that I've been so many times and have always dreamed of getting aerial shots of. And then I went out to Escalante, waited for my friend to come meet me. So I had one solo night out there that my friend was there. We went and did Cosmic Ashtray, slept out in the Cosmic Ashtray, which was spectacular. From there, we went out to the Wave. The day before the Wave, we got last minute passes to do Buckskin Gulch, which is another big location out there. It was cool. I love the larger canyons. They're so pretty. It reminded me more of Antelope Canyon, but you didn't need a guide. We took Wire Pass in, which was super, super pretty. Another iconic place. Wire Pass is where you see everybody going through the slot canyon with that big ladder. It's super Instagrammable for people and it's not too hard to access. And the next day we got to hike into Coyote Buttes North, which is the Wave. And it was like Disney World. It looked fake, most of it. It was absolutely stunning. And it's kind of cool because that area is so large and most people will hike in, see the Wave, and hike out, and they don't realize how much there is to see in that permit area. There are arches and windows and dinosaur footprints and everything you can want to see.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I think you shared that you came across some dinosaur tracks. Like, is it something that's like clearly visible in the rock? Like, I guess the claw print?
Yeah, so you can see like tracks along the rock of the same animal walking across what was a mud pit. And then you can see the differences not only in size, but in the shape of the footprint. So the different species that were walking through that area. And you got to they're kind of hidden and they're kind of in a more inaccessible area of Coyote Buttes. But there's this little map that you can find through their website, and it has all of these cool markers on their map so you can go find them, and they make it kind of easy. But yeah, you find this one band of rock, definitely not obvious until we came right upon it. But once you find it, you just start seeing more and more in that layer of rock, and it's so cool.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, it's definitely one that I'm constantly applying for if I know I'm going to be going to the Southwest, hoping to hit it one day. Kind of switching gears, Erica, we talked about some of the great dishes that you've been able to cook up. What I love about your Instagram is you're able to share with us some of the unique landscapes that basically become your outdoor kitchen. And you've been able to cook in some really magical looking places. For you personally, what have been some of your favorite places to cook outdoors? And then what's your favorite campsite dish to prepare?
Ooh, gosh. So again, there's so many cool places that I have had the pleasure and ability to cook in. I love cooking over campfires. It presents kind of a different challenge, but at the same time, I happen to love being able to cook at crazy scenic overlooks, so long as it's not too windy, which happens quite often. That's always my favorite just because I can cook and look out, and it's just like mind blowing. Not things I ever thought in my wildest dreams I was going to get to do or in the places that I get to. And as far as my favorite dish to cook on the road, it's always changing. Lately, I've been doing a lot of chicken shawarma and gyros the past 2 trips that I've been on, and it works out so well because I can just pre-mix all of my spices, marinate everything, back seal it, throw it in my fridge, and it's ready to go. That's kind of been my next step in the evolution of camp cooking. Is I've been trying to utilize my vac sealer more and try and prep as far as I can into each recipe before breaking it down into a holding state so that when we do get to camp, I can just pull my pans out, dump everything in, cook it up, and assemble. Whereas I used to kind of go to the grocery store, figure out what I was doing at the grocery store, packing all of the unmarinated meats, separately in their original packaging, which took up so much space and became so disorganized super quick. Another one that I do quite often is just different pasta dishes because they seem so luxurious and they're so easy to make. You just need one pot. I usually end up just using my jet boil system, which they make. I forget the size of the pot, but they have a pretty decent sized pot. Even on this last trip, I ended up doing a mushroom gnocchi with lobster claw. That was like a canned lobster claw, and they can it in butter. It's super fresh. And then what else did I have in there? It was broccolini. And it was literally a one pot meal. It was so easy.
Oh my goodness. You're making me hungry. Like a euro on the trail or at the summit. Oh, it's, like the best thing next to a taco. That's awesome that you've been able to refine your craft and be able to make what I think a lot of people think are challenging dishes. But like you said, sometimes you could do it in just one pot and make something delicious. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been fun to kind of figure out with each trip. I challenge myself to improve every time we go out. And it's finally hit the point where I'm now okay, I know how to cook all of these things in this setting. Now, how do I get it to the point where I don't even have to worry about, messing around with raw meat? I used to bring gloves and all of my cutting boards and all that stuff. And it has been so much easier just trying to pre-prep everything and have it ready to go in little baggies. And it sounds like I'm taking all of the cooking out of it, but I promise I'm not.
I think that's a good tip for people that are thinking about getting into overlanding, because a lot of people do have a limited amount of space for their food, their meals. What other tips or advice would you give to folks that are interested in getting into overlanding that will help them have a better time on the road?
So I might not be the best influence in that regard just because I bring anything and everything. So always kind of work off the philosophy that I'd rather have everything in case of an emergency or just you want it, you need it, instead of being underprepared, which can get a little cumbersome at times. But that's also in my mind why I choose to overland and have the space that I do and the type of rig that I do. Again, I'd rather just have everything with me As far as overlanding, though, to make it easier, I would say just figuring out what kind of storage situation you want to use or storage systems you want to use. That kind of took me a few years to really nail down, especially with this new build. I was kind of uptight about the packing systems that I went with in my old Forerunner. I messed the plastic up in the back so bad, which like most people don't care. And at the end of the day, I know I'm still probably going to scuff it all up, but I had to find packing systems that both fit what I was trying to organize. And I went for soft-sided things so that I wasn't messing up any hard surfaces in the car. One of my systems is like this North Face. It's almost like a canvas pop-up box. Those are super good for like, I put my clothes in there. Sometimes I'll put my boots in there. I've got this other system that I use as my camp quote kitchen. It's called a Rux box that also kind of pops down. It's like a hard plastic tub almost that has these four corners that are, you know, those snap bracelets that everybody used to have. They're almost like the snap bracelets in each corner. It's kind of an interesting system. I am obsessed with my Patagonia black hole duffel. So yeah, again, just finding a way to stay organized on the road is one of the biggest things I would say.
You know, the more efficient you can be with the storage, the more you're able to take some of those luxury items.
And there after like a week or two where you can't find any of your gear, everything's coated in dust. You're coated in dust. You like don't want to touch anything. It gets hairy.
Yeah. Now, these last couple questions, Erica, are questions we ask everybody on the podcast. For some hikers, they tend to have a regular summit routine, or maybe it's an end of the hike routine. For some, it's packing their favorite snack or drink. For others, it's a moment of zen. And then for others, it's also the favorite meal afterwards. Is there a regular custom or routine that you do once you make it to your destination or when you make it back out?
Snacks, always snacks. I always have a snack pack if it's a day hike, if it's an hour hike, if I always have something. One of my favorites is just dried fruit, realistically. I have a dehydrator at home, so I'll buy all these random fruits. I shop a lot at like H Mart. Pineapple is one of my favorite, mangoes, apples, strawberries. I just throw everything I can find in the dehydrator, especially as a single person. I'll buy fruit on sale or I'll buy too much food and have leftover. It's great for that as well. And it's getting that sugar fix without eating candy, which I know is a lot of people's go-to. But as far as after a big hike, a lot of the times I go for Japanese food, not necessarily sushi, but even in Boulder, there's more of like a traditional izakaya style, like home cooking Japanese food. That's one of my favorite places to go after a really long hike, although that's on like specialty days, like a treat yourself day.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the dried fruit, Erica. One thing that I've been doing lately is trying the different dried mangoes, like some with chili, like tahini. Like you said, it's that sugar rush without having to eat candy. And sometimes I'll throw it, if I have like a Nalgene or my Yeti, I'll toss it into the water just so it flavors my water a little bit.
Ooh, I love that.
Now, this is another two-parter for you. When it comes to your pack list for both hiking and overlanding, is there a luxury item that you tend to pack in each of those that kind of falls outside of the essentials, but is a comfort item for you for both hiking and overlanding?
I'm the absolute worst at this. If I have extra space, I will pack anything. My car, I generally have like a traveling library in. I usually have 2 or 3 books, usually Craig Childs or Terry Tempest Williams. I'm obsessed with essential oils kits. I'm like a skincare routine girly. I've got my whole cosmetics case drawer in my car pretty much. What else do I have? I mean, like I have photos that I haven't even put on Instagram just because I don't even know how I would. They were more just to like send to my friends to laugh at myself. But right before I went and did the Reflection Canyon hike alone, I did like a whole facial. I had a face mask on in the middle of the desert. So I'm the worst as far as like bringing luxury items with me. I I basically feel like I'm at home when I'm in my car, which is what I like, especially when I'm traveling alone and I'm far from home. It makes me feel more normal, or like I have a routine while I'm on the road, you know?
No, I love that. You're making it feel like home. And, to be honest, I think a lot of backpackers and even day hikers can agree that, like, there's some days where it's like hot and dusty where you wish you could get a face scrub or something to kind of clear out your pores, because there's some days where it's just caked on. The fact that you found a routine is pretty awesome, to be able to do that self-care on the road without having to wait to make it back home.
Yeah, I have this jerry can that Lifesaver makes, which was a huge game changer for me, not only for skincare for me, but also cleaning up after cooking, because not only does it filter, like you can filter river water and drink it, but it has a shower head that you can attach to it and you pump the pressure up on it. That thing actually has some good pressure to it and you can clean almost about anything. I've tried to do a full shower. It won't get the soap out of your hair, but it's good enough to like wash your face and feel refreshed at least. And then, yeah, you mentioned camera equipment. At this point, I always have my tripod, whether it's like my full-size tripod or my GoPro has like a mini handheld tripod. I've always got something.
Now, Erica, we're halfway through the year as we're recording this. Do you have any travel and hiking goals for the remainder of 2024?
I don't have anything specific on the docket at this point. All of like the big planned trips are out of the way. I have been more just like into impromptu trips. I had no plans of actually going to New Mexico this week. Ended up going down there anyway. I ended up having the time, really just wanted to go clear my head, go to some hot springs down there that I've been meaning to hit. I know I've got another friend who has really wanted me to take her out hiking and camping, more so just a issue of getting a schedule aligned for the both of us. So I know that more things will come up, but nothing specific just yet.
I like that. Still gives you the opportunity to do sporadic trips if you find the time off.
Yeah, and I find myself wanting to go back to a lot of the same places. So if anything this year, I've really been trying to find new places or push myself to check some more of these locations that I've always wanted to see off the list.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what you're able to share with us online in 2024, because so far you've been crushing it, and I know that it's an open road for you for the remainder of the summer and fall. That was it for the regular questions, Erica. This last little bit of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 10 hiking related topics and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. But the first one is, do you prefer a steep incline or a steep decline?
I'm definitely better with inclines. I can hike up, climb up, about anything. It's the getting down from those places that sometimes trips me up. I can keep going up. Getting down is just so scary. Or like a big thing with especially like getting more into canyoneering is learning to trust yourself once you've turned around and you're facing a rock face to like get down off of something. For whatever reason, it still trips me out.
And I gotta ask, when it comes to off-roading, steep incline or steep decline?
Off-roading? I think I'd still say incline, just because decline it's okay, but sometimes like, I don't know, I feel like going up, I'm usually okay on things. Sometimes going down, like having to hold the weight of the car, sometimes not being able to see the angle that you're hitting certain things, depending on like who, what, where, and when type of deal. I would say incline always.
And then this one's a tough one, but waterfalls or summits?
That one is a tough one. I would say waterfalls, just because I love water and sometimes they're just in more intimate or more unique places than summits. Not to say that summits aren't unique by any means, and both of them have their unique beauties, but gosh, especially you being from the Pacific Northwest, just some of the waterfalls out there are like unimaginable.
Do you prefer a trail with switchbacks, or would you prefer just to go straight up?
I would say straight up, just because it doesn't feel like you're covering as much surface area, if that makes any sense. Whereas like switchbacks are super cool when you're in a more wooded or forest forested area just because you get to see a little bit more.
Do you use trekking poles at all, or do you prefer to be freehand?
I kind of always questioned trekking poles until this past year or so. I've started to see the beauty in them. I need to really get my hands on a set, that being said, just because I think in the long run I will be happier with myself and the wear and tear on my knees and body.
And then this one's about your footwear. Do you wear trail runners or do you use traditional hiking boots?
I am always wearing traditional hiking boots, even if they are remotely inappropriate just for being too much in a situation. I didn't get a pair of trail runners until this past year, and I love them. They're so cute, but I end up wearing them like as street shoes more so than not, just because I feel like on trail, I don't know how I'd react to not having the ankle support realistically, and I tend to be kind of clumsy, so I don't know if I trust myself in trail runners yet.
Do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
You'd think with a loop trail you get to see more, and in theory you do, but on a lot of out and backs, I always find it interesting to see a different perspective, the trail that you took in, because it can be so different from the opposite direction.
No, for sure. And this next one, Erica, is about your water carrying system when you're on the trails. Do you use a traditional water bottle or a hydration pack like a Camelback?
So I used to have a Camelback. I haven't in a few years. I love them. I have just been in the mode of grabbing my water bottles. I've got a whole collection of Yetis and then a few Nalgene's. They're just super versatile. I love the Camelbacks, but sometimes they can be a pain, especially if you're out for long periods of time. Just getting them clean and making sure they stay clean is like a whole different problem. I've got so much to keep clean at this point.
Now, these next two are the hardest ones, in my opinion, but sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
That is a hard one. I would say sunset. I love sunrise hikes, and generally when I'm with my friends in Colorado, we tend to do sunrise hikes, but sunset hikes are always just so much fun. It's usually warmer weather. I have such good memories of catching amazing sunsets and hiking through the night, and there's always something special about that twilight hour, the golden hour in the afternoon, and just kind of that transition into night, watching the stars come out. It's the best.
And this next one, Colorado is known for both of them, but spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Wildflowers. The fall is so pretty, especially out here, but I might be an unpopular opinion, but I have gotten to a point where I am like kind of over the cold. I persevere through it. I love it to some degree. It's like a love-hate relationship. I still love my winter hikes, but something about fall just feels like an ending for me sometimes. And like I try and shake that feeling every year, but as beautiful as it is, summer wildflowers all day.
Now, the last one for you is, do you prefer long and gradual hikes or short and steep hikes?
That one's also hard. It depends so much on the mood I'm in. There are definitely some days where I want to get cardio in. I want to feel accomplished at the end of this hike and maybe not have it take the entire day. But then there are days that I just like meandering and slowly getting to the location and kind of enjoying the journey of it a little bit more. So I'd say that one's kind of 50-50 for me.
I like that. Well, that was it for the this or that questions, Erica. It has been a blast talking to you and hearing about your experiences. And I look forward to what 2024 has to offer for you. For our listeners that haven't had a chance to follow you online and see some of these adventures and some of these amazing dishes that you're cooking, where are some of the places they can find you both on social media and online?
So the accounts that I have set up right now are all adventure eating. There's one E in the center, which I know that's kind of weird. The adventure and eating share or the E, and then they all have an underscore afterwards. I'm mainly on Instagram right now. I have a Reddit that I will post on, and then I also have a TikTok and a YouTube. I need to figure out my approach for YouTube. I've yet to upload anything there, but I do plan on having more like how-tos and instructional videos on cooking and packing and everything outdoors, overland, gear reviews, etc. And then I do, my TikTok, I'm still figuring out TikTok. I'm still trying to figure out if I like it or not. It's a love-hate relationship on TikTok. But yeah, that's the beginning for me, and hopefully a website down the road. I really am still trying to figure out my direction with a lot of that.
We'll be sure to put some of those links in the episode show notes so people can follow you in your adventures along. You've been crushing it on Instagram, and it's been really great to see all the amazing places you've been able to visit. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor to talk to you and get more in depth with some of the adventures that I go on and things that I have been doing behind the camera, slowly starting to show on camera, but, all in evolution.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Erica. We extend our heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow her on Instagram at adventureeating_, with only one E in the middle. And don't forget to check out the episode show notes for more. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the summer months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.